In 1991, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego premiered on public television in the United States, based on the educational computer games licensed by Broderbund Software in the mid-1980s. The idea of the live-action show was to educate Americans on geography and certain historical facts, due to a majority of citizens in the country having a shockingly small amount of geographical knowledge. The show's format was so successful that an animated series was broadcasted based on the computer games and the live-action series, broadcasted from 1994 through 1999 for a period of 4 seasons. As this installment was called Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, it became the most well-known of all the Carmen Sandiego franchise installments. Each and every episode of this series had to meet the approval of Broderbund Software due to the concern of the depiction of violence or suggestive content, as the cartoon was broadcasted on the American Fox channel, as at the same time in the 1990s, other cartoons on the channel were X-Men the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, Batman the Animated Series, and others. Following the educational mystery games of the Carmen Sandiego franchise, this animated feature shows the internationally known Carmen Sandiego, whom is considered the greatest thief in the world, leading the organization of Vile. Once they steal treasures from across the world, they leave clues at the scene of the crime for Acme agents Zack and Ivy to find. And under the guidance of the chief, they try to find her using these clues left behind. This iconic version of Carmen Sandiego was actually a former agent of Acme who left the organization because she sought a more challenging life and had a strong ethical code when stealing treasures. Whenever an episode started, during the intro scene, a person is seen sitting at a computer screen typing onto a keyboard is mentioned in the show as the player. It's hinted at the entire series and all of the characters in it are not alive, but part of a computer simulation acted out by the player playing a game. Though there have been many backstories for Carmen Sandiego, the animated series explained a unique version. According to the show, Carmen was actually an orphan raised in San Francisco. The chief met her through circumstances and gave her a home at the Acme Detective Agency. Eventually, by the age of 17, she solved more cases than any other agent to have ever been a part of the agency. Mentioned through episodes, she later disappeared and became a thief. The exact reason for Carmen leaving the agency was never technically mentioned. Originally, Carmen was a serious villain, but in later seasons depicted as a vigilante, often doing things to her own reasons, and as mentioned, her own honor code. There were even examples of Carmen teaming up with Zack and Ivy to stop other criminals. She often proclaimed many times that she refused to steal something if the said theft would cause anyone personal injury. The series also gave a timeline of events, with the mid-1990s being the present in the series. According to the timeline, Carmen Sandiego joined Acme under the chief in 1985, thus placing the year of her birth being in that of 1968. In the two-part series final, Carmen attempts a theft against the millionaire Michael Avalon for a statue, but through the theft she finds a portrait of someone that Carmen thinks might be her mother, based on a locket that she owns herself, and the theory that Avalon might be her father is presented. Avalon refuses to consider the fact that Carmen might be his daughter due to her spending her life as a thief and an international criminal. He later mentions that his wife and daughter died in a hotel fire in San Francisco, but later in the episode he considers the possibility of Carmen being his long-lost daughter. Before finding out the absolute truth, Avalon falls from a roof during events of the episode with a former Acme agent and develops selective amnesia of those particular events. Right at the end of the series, at the end of the final episode, Carmen has a hypnotist to try and help her remember what happened exactly that day. It's discovered that she picked up the locket from being on the ground, but can't recall if it's because she dropped it being Avalon's daughter, or found it while the building was burning, not being Avalon's daughter. Carmen says one final comment on her past, mentioning, quote, but maybe there are just some things we aren't meant to know for sure, end quote. There would be other shows based off of Carmen Sandiego, but this in particular incarnation of the character would be, as mentioned, the most popular than all the others and would become more popular than other depictions and become nationally recognizable in the United States for the rest of the decade. This depiction of Carmen Sandiego and this animated series was so well received and remembered at the time so well that events in the episodes later became official canon for Carmen Sandiego, and future features depicting the character would actually have some of the continuity established during this time. Sometimes a character can be forgotten, but only because there were some versions of the said character that weren't as iconic as the others.